Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women in Leadership Talk. We are delighted to have Elena Mechik with us today. Elena, thanks so much for joining us all the way from Germany.
Yes, I'm happy to be with you, Vicky, today.
Well, we're thrilled to have you, and we've got an exciting conversation. I'm super energized about learning more about blockchain and AI and all the amazing work you're doing. But before we do that, I want to just give a little bit of background about you to our audience, so they have some context as to what you do and where you've come from. So Elena is Dr. Elena Mechik. She spent over 5 months in the rainforest of Brazil writing her PhD on climate change mitigation through sustainable conservation of tropical forest. In 2009, she founded an NGO to minimize poverty and protect the environment. In 2020, she founded INHUBBER, which is, you see her business logo behind her there, which is a contract management and digital signature company based out of Berlin. This is a SaaS solution for contract management, which uses blockchain and artificial intelligence technologies to reduce the paper consumption at companies, and on the one hand, and to create a total transparency of contractual relationships on the other. So, you already, you've done so much. Spending 5 months in the rainforest, or in Brazil for the rainforest, like that in itself is incredible. So I want to hear about that. But also just, let's start out today getting a little more insight to your background and why sustainability is important to you. And then, how you've developed this company that can really help, other companies with respect to their contracts and contractual agreements. So tell us all about you, Elena.
Of course. Yes. So actually, I was studying industrial engineering, and with the main technological topic of airplanes, to be honest, like technology of airplanes, becoming an engineer. And by the end of my studies, I got the chance to travel to Brazil. It was a university project. And it changed my life, to be honest, because it was something completely different, something I have never been to. I was living in a forest community, spending time with people who didn't speak English, who were just speaking Portuguese. And it was just an incredible experience of coming back to our roots, yet feeling this nature, the beauty of the nature. And I just fell in love with this beauty, so to say. But on the other hand, I could actually see and hear the deforestation happening. So it touched me emotionally so much that after coming back from Brazil to Germany, I was researching on that topic, on illegal logging, on climate change. And it was kind of the first pivot I made. I decided to write my PhD on that topic. I decided to open an NGO in order to protect the tropical forest from illegal logging. And so starting around 2011, 2012, that was my journey of actually with help of the NGO to make it practical, what I was doing, like to be able to support people living in the forest in staying there, in having sustainable income options from the forest, like working with Brazil nuts as an example, or with some other non-timber forest products, as we call them, like products from the forest which are not out of timber. And writing my PhD. So my PhD was exactly about how to empower the people, the communities who are already located in the forest, to protect it and to stay there, not to move away. Because as long as people are living in the forest, near the forest, and using it in a sustainable manner, nothing will happen to it, or at least we can hope for it. Of course, there are a lot of stories of mafia and lobby, etc., coming in and pushing people away. But it gets much more difficult if there are communities, if there are people who live there for generations. And by the end of my PhD, around 2017, I saw the benefits of my kind of PhD, of the strategy I was describing. But then I also realized exactly this topic of like lobby, like politicians, like people who are involved in the logging in the timber industry. You can't just go and empower the communities to stay there, because if an outside force, which is very powerful, comes and just push the people away, nothing the communities don't really have any power, any rights. And that's why I thought you can't actually tackle the challenges of the past with the technologies of the past, because we see it was not working until now. We see that climate change is happening, illegal logging is happening, and that's why I thought, yeah, in order to change something, we need actually innovation. We need innovative technologies. And that's how I started researching. I got to know the blockchain technology. And I saw a possibility within that technology to actually create a sustainable, transparent supply chain, and actually being able to see where the timber is coming from, where the final product has been produced, if illegally logged timber has been imported into the supply chain at some point of time. Because at the end, everything what is happening is connected somehow to contracts. Yeah?
Yes.
A contract for a license for logging timber, it's also a contract. Then the timber itself, then the logistical transportation contracts, final product contracts, the production, etc. And so the big vision, the big idea is to connect contracts to the reality.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have a visible way of managing everything, all the processes happening within the company through a contract management solution.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I have so many questions there.
Yes.
Okay. So let's just back up for 1 second because I think what I heard you say is that most people don't understand that total impact so for an example, illegal logging, right? That impact on a community, on the rainforest, has multiple ripple effects. So it's people's homes, it's their livelihood, just the impact that it has to the earth itself, the climate change, like all of these different components. And then you briefly mentioned, it was not just about the community rallying, but then, how is the government getting involved? And are there bigger plays happening that create all this? And so that's what prompted you then to create INHUBBER. Am I capturing that right?
Yes.
Okay. So finding a way to have high impact on how we're using the forest, the lumber, right? Where it's coming from. Is it legal? Is it illegal? How is that flowing through the government? So, wow, like so many things that you have already highlighted. Maybe before we get into, really about the contractual piece, maybe just take a moment and explain blockchain. Explain a little bit about artificial intelligence. I mean, we all hear it in the news, but the average person, like, I don't know fully, I don't fully understand blockchain. So maybe start there and give us a little bit of insight as to what that actually means and how it works.
Yes, of course. So I try to explain it as simple as possible. And for me, I would explain it in a way that usually if you have a document, some sort of information, and you're working, let's say, on your laptop, you would be saving this piece of information on your laptop, maybe in a cloud, let's say G drive, whatever it is. Yeah, you save it at one place. Blockchain, with help of blockchain, you save one piece of information, but simultaneously at the same time at a lot of laptops, one can say, or at a lot of servers, at a lot of points, nodes, but you are sure that the same piece of information has been saved, let's say at 10, 100, 1,000 places simultaneously, which in a way, once you know it, then you can also see if someone at one point of this information storage was trying to manipulate the information, was trying to change this information. And if so, you get this transparently visible because you know that it's supposed to be same everywhere. Yes, and that's actually blockchain. Like you have nodes, you have different points of where the same piece of information has been saved. And that makes it impossible to manipulate, to change this information.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's like, yes. And that's how, like, coming back to the topic of timber, of transparency of a supply chain, if we save this information of this timber has been logged in XYZ area in the Amazon rainforest, it has been illegally logged, and we save this information on the blockchain, no one else can change it. Yeah, you can't get illegally logged timber with the information overwritten to what has been actually happening. So the question is now, like, how can we know exactly, like, that piece of timber is connected to that piece of logging license, let's say. But there are technologies in order to fulfill that as well, and to have this kind of a fingerprint of every timber piece.
Okay, that's brilliant. And that beautiful explanation. Thank you so much, because that really helps me understand, and I'm sure our audience understand, like, because you hear blockchain, right? And sometimes we make it harder than what it is. So that was perfect. So it's like a fingerprint that embeds it, basically, right? So that nobody can ever change that. It's unique to that specific thing. And then how does artificial intelligence play in with the, well, even listen, we can talk about the contracts then, and then I want to get into detail about how and why you've created the contractual agreements the way you've done.
Yes, of course. So how do we use artificial intelligence, and what can you understand? Like, there are, of course, a lot of forms of artificial intelligence, and many of us are using it without even maybe realizing. Our iPhones, our smartphones, like changing kind of the pictures, and there are so many possibilities, options already. Of course, the chatbot GPT, which came out recently, a lot of people are
hearing lots, reading lots.
Yes, using it already. And how are we using artificial intelligence for contracts? We actually are kind of Google for contracts. You can ask a question to a contract and get an answer from the contract. And in general, we make the life for our users just easier, that you can find information easily within the information, like within the whole broad number of contracts available within the company. So just getting the information easier in front of your eyes than it used to be before, when you had to scroll down, I don't know, 200 pages of documents.
Yes, a lot.
looking for certain clauses, for certain cancellation possibilities, etc.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so that's helpful, and that makes a lot of sense. And so it sounds like there's a lot of benefits to using blockchain, using artificial intelligence. What might be some of the side effects or some of the consequences by using it?
Yeah, so blockchain technology, it can be very source intensive, like resource intensive, like you need a lot of electricity. If you really save this information simultaneously at 100,000 million of devices, so to say, simultaneously, you need to pay, of course, for the electricity of all those devices. Where before you would just save it on one place and you pay just for electricity of this one device. Okay. That's like, for INHUBBER, we are using a private blockchain, which means we don't need so many nodes. In general, you need just more than 3 nodes already to make it kind of unchangeable. Yes. Okay. That's why we don't use so much energy at the end in order to make the transactions. That's for the blockchain technology, like just one of the side effects which I see straight away. Regarding artificial intelligence, I see a lot of benefits. It will help us a lot, like this, the way we are working now. It will be helpful for all kind of work we are doing, like marketing, like some ideas of how to approach certain customers. So just as an example from sales perspective, or getting answers to quite different questions which you might not be getting very easily. But the side effect which I see is that, of course, at some point of time, you can't really see where this answer is coming from. Yeah, you don't see the sources which artificial intelligence was taking in order to give you this answer. And so it just like, I don't know if you have been using the Chatgpt maybe.
I haven't yet.
You haven't yet, but
Not
in
yet.
a way you should, and you can ask any question. You can ask whatever comes up to your mind, if private, commercial question from your business, whatever it is, and you get a reply. And the reply is quite good. Like you could ask a consultant maybe and get a similar reply.
Yes. Well, I actually just read, sorry to interrupt you there, Elena. I just read that there was a professor in Pennsylvania who is head of the MBA program, and he gave the Chatgpt the MBA exam, and it passed it within like 4 seconds.
Exactly.
It's like, wow, right? So whatever, to your point, like you could ask, things you're trying to figure out that might take hours, you can have in moments, apparently.
Exactly. And I mean, it's of course it's very beneficial, but on the other hand, we don't see where the chatbot is taking the information from. We know it's taking it from internet, from available data.
Sure.
But that's the side effect which I see. So I see that people will get more and more lazy. Will just ask.
I was just going to say that.
To this one chatbot, whether it will be Chatgpt or some other one, but it will just, you will be able to talk just to one source of truth, so to say, just asking any questions, getting an answer to any question you ask. But I mean, you can't check where the answer is coming from, and of course it can become quite dangerous.
Yeah.
And I see that, of course, the governments will have to interact. They will have to kind of put boundaries to it, but they won't be fast enough. Also,
well, that's what I was just going to say, like the impact that has on humanity. And this is just off the top of my head, right? Because I see the young people that are, coming up, this next generation, and as society, we have really gotten lazy on our critical thinking, and this really does impact. So it could become a very big issue on the Chatgpt. But let's save that for another conversation. So I know that, you're super excited and super passionate about the supply chain transparency, and maybe just expand even a little bit more on, that relationship of your passion with the contractual agreements now that you're working on in INHUBBER.
Yes.
INHUBBER.
Yeah. So in general, yes, the supply chain transparency, that's how it started. That's how was the original idea and also the vision to go on. But well, what we saw is actually that companies, industries just not ready for it. Yeah. We started talking to furniture producers about supply chain transparency, like fighting against illegal logging of timber forests. And of course, everyone is revenue oriented, and you would not want to spend more money on the production as long as it's not necessary. Yeah. And we saw that as long as the government is not pushing it and promoting and actually enforcing the supply chain transparency, nothing is going to happen. What we also saw is that a lot of companies just don't even have a general contract management solution. And you can't really jump to supply chain transparency based on contracts if there's no really overview of all contracts you have within the company. And what we realized is that we were just too innovative in a way.
Too brilliant.
Yes, and we should just start from the beginning. And the beginning is creating a general transparent contract management repository where everyone within the company can see what contracts there are. Do you need all the contracts which you have been negotiated earlier?
Great question.
Exactly. And in general, what we see now is also every company needs to save, needs to make decisions on maybe how to cut expenses. And what we offer is actually this foundation in order to make these profound decisions of which costs can be cut down, which services a company might not need anymore. So we provide this transparency into contractual relationships in general for now, having also deadline notifications so that you never miss an important deadline, cancellation deadline, etc. And that's what we do right now. And that's the way kind of from supply chain transparency to contract management in general. And the next steps, and that's what we see also together with our users, with our customers, so that we just walk this way together now. Yeah, we start at the beginning, start with the overview of contracts, of everything what is happening on the contractual side within the companies, and then going together step after step in the direction of the supply chain transparency, but also transparency about all the processes taking place within companies.
Yeah, I love what I hear here, because it's not just about the contract, right? Because and that in itself is a huge component in even recognizing when contracts are coming up to be due. I mean, that's hugely labor intensive, depending on the size of the organization, right? But what I also love what you've said here is it does bring more of that transparency, which has a big effect on our world, climate change, sustainability, like all sorts of other ways. And even from a consumer perspective, the consumer being more aware of what's happening with the goods that they're purchasing. Because when you said, and I'm a retailer at heart, that I was spent many, many years in that furniture business. And so it's this constant push and pull, right, of wanting a better price. And the retailers are trying to, be as cost effective as possible to offer the consumer the best price. But there is a cost to that. And so it is paying attention to where those goods are coming from and the operations of that company. So love that you're putting so much emphasis on the transparency. And, the other thing I think that's really interesting is, you're a female founder, female owner in a highly male dominated world or industry. And, what do you think has been your superpower to help you navigate some of the complexities that take place in especially technology? It's a highly, highly male dominated industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say if it's a superpower, but probably it is for us. All of us women is the multitasking.
Yeah,
I really see it that we just can handle so much at the same time, more or less simultaneously. And the ability to learn, which is probably a superpower of just people who are willing to change, who are willing to start something new, to start and experiment. Yeah, because entrepreneurship is so much about experimenting and seeing what works best, what doesn't work, and just drop it and stop doing it. And I would say these two topics are quite important.
Yeah, well, you just keyed in on something there. I think that's really two things you said. Experimentation. So I'm not afraid to try different things. If it's not working, you pivot, you adjust. So agility becomes sort of the backbone. But the other big message I heard there is, removing the ego and being able to say it's not working and let's try something different. That's super important. And, the other thing that, you're talking about multitasking. Because we do deal with a lot of things. You're a new mom, right? And you have this company that's up and coming and doing very well. And so how do you balance being this entrepreneur, this thought leader? I mean, because you're clearly innovating ahead of your time, which is awesome, and being a mom. Like, what are some of those challenges like? And what are the successes, I guess, is how I want to ask.
Yeah, I was talking to a CEO of a company recently, and he said he is happily looking for mothers to employ because he knows how efficient they are working. Because
Yes.
if you have a child, you know that you have a limited amount of time. You have to finish. You have to be fast and effective. And there's no time for like a long coffee break or just chilling around during your working time, because you have time for work and you have time to be with family. And of course, it's again multitasking. Yeah, you have to organize. You have to do maybe more simultaneously, but you also need to know exactly what you need to finish in order to get to the goals you set for yourself. So it's of course a lot of organization, and it's an immense change from being just a single or having a family, that you learn quite quickly how to organize and how to, if you need to manage a lot simultaneously, you do it, you find ways. And again, I'm still open. Like I was recently listening also to Dan Martell. If it's a name for you, he just wrote a book recently, Buy Back Your Time, which was also very interesting. Like just to get more input in it, how to get even more organized, how to buy back more of your time, so you get even more out of this limited amount of daily time we have. And yes.
Awesome. So I just want to highlight what you shared there, because so for our audience, first of all, I'd love to meet the CEO that you were talking to. And so for those of you who are moms, and I know sometimes we worry, right? Like, especially if we've taken a little bit of time off and then we want to get back into the workforce, we worry that, how do we balance career? How do we have everything? And I think Elena just gave you like such a great example of, how do you articulate to a prospective boss or a prospective new company that you have superpowers, because you are able to multitask and, make sure the kids are taken care of, the house is taken care of, the career is taken care of. That's like, we are amazing. Women are amazing. And we need to own that. So I love that you shared that. That was terrific.
Yeah. So, what I really think is that if I wouldn't stop, even like getting a baby, I realize like you can continue. And
yes.
Even if it's not so much time during the day, if you don't have assistance, or I have also help from my mother is helping. So I do have this logistical help, so to say, which makes me be able to work even almost the same as before, more or less, having children. But what I see is important is never really to stop, always to continue, and to get your brain working all the time throughout giving birth after, etc., because it makes me feel good about myself. I know that I'm on the edge. Like I know what's happening in the world. I know what's going on, and I know that I'm not behind the time because of the family, so to say.
Yes, and you can have both. I love that.
Exactly.
Yes.
You don't have to make a decision. Like now I have 1 year of break and I just stop doing everything, just taking care of the baby, because like I see also women who are going kind of nuts because of it. Like
yes, exactly.
It's important to continue learning, to continue improving, to continue doing what you love doing.
Yes, being engaged in life.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And I did the same thing when I had my kids. I think my son was 5 weeks old and I went back to work. I took 7 months with my daughter, but you just have, to your point, you make different choices, right? So you might need help. You might need, support from your partner, or you might need to bring a family member in, or you might have to hire help, right? But, it's making sure that you're healthy, you're whole, and that you stay engaged in life's activities, because the kids do grow up and they grow up resilient and all those wonderful things.
Yes.
So who are you leaning on? So you've got a lot going on. You're building this great company. Clearly you're engaged in a lot of things and keeping up to date on what's happening in the world technologically. But who are people that you might lean on as mentors or sponsors? And why would that be important to have that support system?
Yeah. Like what I learned with time is that if you don't know something, you just need to find someone who's much better than you in it and talk to him. Because it will take you so much time to get this knowledge and to find the answers. And instead of it, you can just ask for advice, ask for support, and get it quite fast. Of course, you have to still spend time getting more knowledgeable on some topics, but it's like a jump. You jump much faster on that scale. And that's why I think everything what you have mentioned is very important, like mentors, sponsors. So let's say our investor is supporting me on marketing side, like getting me further on that. I have like for now in this moment, marketing is a topic which I put high on my goal list, like to improve it, to get better in it, and that's where I strategically and to the point I'm looking for the best people who are out to talk to get experience and to get advice in order to jump to the next level.
Nice. Love that. Awesome. Yeah, super important. And what about, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. So most of us are afraid of technology, right? Me included. I'm always terrified I'm going to mess something up. And I'm always saying to my daughter, how do I do this? How do I do that? And she'll say to me, Mom, I've showed you how to do that 5 times. And I'm like, yes, well, I taught you how to eat and I taught you how to put your pants on. So just bear with me. But what would you advise for people with respect to how to become more knowledgeable or even just getting comfortable with things like Chatgpt or I think you've given us a really good explanation on blockchain, which is terrific. But how do we get more comfortable with experimenting or exploring with these different technologies?
I can just tell you how I do it. Like
Sure.
First, I just try it out. If I'm afraid to try it out because it does look complicated, I go on YouTube and
love it
and check it out, like how others are doing it, and just see a video of it and get an idea and just start doing it afterwards. So, and it's a combination of these two: either just do it straight away or just get again advice from someone who shows you how to do it, or just video or YouTube. And it's such an easy way. We are full of information. We just need to ask the right questions at the end. How do I use it? Because at the end, there's nothing to be afraid of.
So it's getting past the fear and doing it anyway.
Exactly.
Right? What's that thing? Feel the fear and do it anyway. Just do it.
Exactly. Just do
Awesome.
it. Just try it out. And if you don't manage by yourself straight away, just get some advice.
I love it. Love it. So just before we wrap up, because I'm just cognizant of our time here. I know you were featured in, was it Web3 was the magazine where they interviewed you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if our audience is interested, there's a great article on Dr. Elena Mechik, and they talk about her being a founder, female founder, and some of the work that she's doing with INHUBBER. So certainly check that out. And then just the importance of supply chain transparency and even the contractual transparency. Did I miss anything on that article?
No, I think you're good. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, it was very fascinating. I got to read it, and so I was super excited because one, it's highlighting, all the work that you've been doing, and that's important for women. Period. Is putting ourselves out and just experimenting and exploring all the different ways that we can get our name into the world for the work that we're doing. And you certainly have been doing some excellent work. And thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing your journey through, the rainforest and how that one experience has taken you down this path of where you are today. I mean, like that whole conversation was just brilliant, and thinking about, 5 months and your whole world changed. Completely different to what you had planned, right? So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Yeah. Thanks, Vicky, a lot for the invitation, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, it was lovely to have you. And just before we go, so where can people find you? So I know you're on LinkedIn, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yes. And where else might they find you?
Over our website.
Okay.
It's INHUBBER.com, where we can talk to each other, book a demo. You have my email address. It's elena.mechik@inhubber.com. And LinkedIn is, of course, always a good option.
Yeah, that's a great spot to connect. So, if you have questions after you've, listened to our conversation today, you have questions about blockchain, about artificial intelligence, if you have a company that does a lot of contractual type work and you need support, Elena would be your great, she's a great resource here for you to, tap into and ask her questions, and, INHUBBER could definitely help you on the contractual side. So Elena, I want to thank you again for being here with us today. Invaluable insight. I now feel more comfortable with blockchain, and I am going to go try Chatgpt just because I keep reading all this information about it, and I want to experience it. So I'm going to do that myself.
You definitely should.
I'm going to. And I want to take a moment and thank our audience. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. This is an important topic because it's definitely where our future is headed. And, certainly the more we educate ourselves, the more we learn about it, the more comfortable we will get in understanding how it works and reduce some of that fear that we might have. And I also want to share with you, if you're interested in learning more about your leadership, please go on to the WIL Empowered website. That's WIL with one L, and take our free leadership quiz. That'll give you some insight as to how you're showing up as a leader in the world. And you can see just through the conversation with Dr. Elena today, not being afraid to put yourself out there and go after your dreams, because you don't know where that next inspiration is going to come from. So thanks so much for joining us, and we hope to see you on our next show. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.